Today is February 20th. Spring training games start this Saturday, guys. Let's take some time to talk about the new rules we'll be seeing this year. And if you're looking for drama, maybe Bryan Reynolds isn't the best place to start. It's the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and I am joined always by my brother Jake.
There you go.
What's up, Jake?
Hey, man, how you doing? I look like a raccoon today.
You got a little sun.
Got a little bit of sun down here today.
Lucky. I got wind. I could go out and get wind burnt.
Well, yeah.
That's an option.
That is an option. It's
Spring
not
training
a great one,
is here.
Yes, let's go.
Let's go. We got all the videos. We got all the sound. Is the sounds the best part of the videos?
Yeah. Just the crack, man.
Okay. I like it. I'm for that. I think the sounds might be the best part.
Yeah. I love it.
We have a lot to talk about today. Not because there's a lot of topics, but just because we're going to talk about the new rules that we're going to see in baseball this year, and some that it just affects. So there's the rules and then the effects of those rules in some other areas as well. So that's going to be really interesting. We're also going to, talk a little bit about Bryan Reynolds briefly. We are going to move through it because we want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about the rules without going to an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So something that we accidentally do quite often. We do have a couple things here to talk about as far as the news. If you don't mind, we're just going to get rolling here. Pirates won their arbitration case against Ji-Man Choi, as if this was any surprise at all. So he's making the over projection money still. And we don't have time in today's episode to talk about AT&T Sportsnet and the regional network troubles. But take a look at what's going on there. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this today. Apparently, they fell short of paying its full payment to the Pirates. They've entered a 30-day grace period where they're expected to file bankruptcy, same as Diamond Sports Group, which is the Bally Sports stuff. Manfred even spoke about this, admitted they won't be able to help in the short term. This could be a mess for a team like the Pirates if there's they're already claiming struggle in the first place. If they lose this money, it's basically just going to give Nutting another excuse to avoid boosting payroll. If that's the effect of this, right? I don't really know, but is this possibly one step back and two steps forward? If the MLB has to take over all broadcasts of MLB teams for MLB TV, he mentioned digital was away. Could it end blackouts altogether? I know that's on the table. Like he said, blackouts are the opposite of promoting the game. He said that. So it's possibly something that could be a part of that. To Sunday, which today's Sunday for us, but we're, you know the drill. Sunday, the news came out that MLB has created an economic reform committee. This has something to do with Steve Cohen and the Mets. I would imagine one of the major things, though, is the struggle of the regional sports networks. At least what we'll say is that's what they're focusing on. But there was some things said, though. But AT&T Sportsnet, Diamond Sports Group, like I said, Bally, that covers more than half the league. Bally alone covers 14 MLB teams. And then AT&T is at least having trouble. From what I hear was the Pirates, Astros, and I think the Diamondbacks. There was at least a third team. And I think there's only, 5 teams that use AT&T? Because that's 3. Right. And then I think the Rockies and the Mariners too. They were at least Root Sports.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know the Rockies and Mariners were at least Root Sports when the Pirates were Root Sports, so I assumed all of it switched, but maybe not. I don't know. So anyway, still, that's more than half the league. Manfred used some terms here that, in regards to mostly maybe the Cohen stuff, but I'm going to read you this quote. We bought in again to a system that lacked absolute upward limitation on what people can spend. That's a cap. That's what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Upward or absolute upward limitation. That's a cap.
Yeah.
That obviously won't come into play for a long time until this CBA is over and we go into the next one. But keep an eye on that because that could be another labor deal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But sooner, the regional network stuff could come into play even sooner than that, I think. You know what I mean? Once they, if this is something that's going to be a problem and MLB has to take over, it's going to change some blackout stuff and possibly fix that big problem. And if it does, they're going to find some new revenue available. Like there's going to be some changes in revenue. And if revenue changes, then that opens up the doors for all these other things to change if they need to, right?
Right.
So more to come on this, I'm sure. We don't have a lot of data, so we have a packed show, so I want to keep moving beyond that. So let's go ahead and get into a ton of hitters are already at camp. The pitchers and catchers reported. The hitters aren't supposed to report until today, the 20th. That's the actual first day. So the one thing is you see a bunch of hitters there, but they're all wearing their shorts. You know what I'm saying? Tomorrow, today, Monday, to be specific, they're all going to be wearing their pants. Basically, that's the difference. It's actual full camp, but it almost looks like the Pirates have a full camp already.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
I think most camps do.
Yeah. So, we've already seen Kutch, Hayes, Cruz, and of course, Bryan Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do the Bryan Reynolds thing.
All right.
Okay. I said in the intro, if you're looking for drama, maybe don't start here. Now there's obvious drama.
Yeah.
There's obvious, there's a thing going on. And I think that there's a lot of oh yeah, we're going to try to, it's so funny the way that we've come on the other side of this and we see one report where they really focus in on Bryan Reynolds wanting to stay and that he's 100% in and that you have nothing to worry about. And then there's another group that will only write he still wants traded. Things are so bad. And it's like both of yous need to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I have a take on this. When he said nothing's changed, then it sounds like nothing's changed. He did not say one way or another how he feels about it. He did not say that at all. He said nothing's changed on that front, which means two things. I have not talked to Ben and said the trade request is off the table. I have not done that. So you could take that as he still wants traded. Absolutely, you could. He said nothing that makes you think it's not. It still is on the table. And Sherrington and the Pirates have also not changed any of the numbers that they've offered Bryan Reynolds. So nothing has changed. Now, I can simplify that. No new discussions have happened. Therefore, nothing has changed. Let's simplify it to that. Now, I understand that means that it makes it turn a little more like you're still holding your breath that he doesn't want traded, right? But nothing that he said in that conversation after that makes you feel like he wants traded.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense. I want to give you some room here to kind of where did you go with all this and what's your takeaway?
Yeah, I just think he's fine. He clearly is not going to be an issue. I think he's still open to signing a long-term deal. He's still open to some discussions. it's he did say his first choice would be to be a Pirate. Well,
Number one.
if that's your number one choice, then more discussions are going to need to be had. Period.
Yeah.
Like, so where we go from here is not it's not completely up to him, but it's up to him. Like,
Ooh,
can you
that's a
sit
good
down and
call.
have a good conversation? Like, can you get this done? I mean, he's going to go out on the field. And he's going to go to work. I mean, I don't think we have to worry about that.
Nope. No
Um,
question.
and
Anybody
anybody would, because if
anybody
you
would.
want a deal, you're going to go to work.
That's right. And if you want traded and you want a team to actually want you, you're going to need to do good.
Yeah.
You're going to need to play well.
You started this off by saying if you're looking for drama. If you're looking for drama, go up to Milwaukee and talk to Corbin Burns.
Oh my gosh.
That is where the drama is. It's
Yeah.
not going to be here with Bryan Reynolds.
So I wanted to go ahead and take advantage, and I don't want to drill on this, but this goes back to talking about G-Man Choi going to arbitration, and we said going to arbitration isn't the problem. It's how you handle arbitration. And Milwaukee handled it not the right way.
Horribly.
And this is typical, right? And this is why people say don't go to arbitration, because of situations like this, where he said that they came out and said that the reason they didn't want to pay him more was because he's the reason they didn't make the playoffs.
Right. That's
okay.
Garbage.
Okay. So I don't understand how that helps you in any way.
Right.
Just so you can save. I don't care what the total is. I still don't understand the arbitration process. I don't know if each side knows what the other side is requesting prior to. And maybe somebody out there can tell me that when they go to file, they may have had negotiations on a deal, but does each party have to know where the other one stands before they file? I don't know that they do, but I would imagine that most of the time they do. If I've offered you a contract,
I would think they would. I would think you'd have to know.
I would think so too. But
they offer you a contract
as many times as it's 200,000 off, I can't imagine them knowing that they're only 200,000 off, or else I feel like either the team or the player would be like, yeah, this is silly.
Yeah.
Like a player should be, and people say like, I can't believe a team's doing that. Well, if it's 200,000, then a player's just as guilty.
Yeah.
You could just say, fine, let's do this. Yeah. I tell you what, will you give me the 200,000 if I make the All-Star team? All right, cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right. Like, figure something out. Both sides are at fault if you can't meet in the middle, or not even meet, just concede for 200,000.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I think Corbin Burns was like 700,000.
It was 700,000.
That's still not that much.
It's not, but that's at least enough to say that's a year. I mean, league minimum 720,000. So that's what we're saying. That's what we said about G-Man Choi too. Like, you're over a player.
Yeah.
Which is a year of you. That's like getting another year early on. So I get that separation. To me, that's a big enough separation. I think if it's 200, even 300,000, I think after 300,000, I'm like, yeah, we'll go ahead and file and see what it said. But I think if it was me, I'd make one argument. These are the numbers. This is what we think he's worth. And then the player could say, well, these are the numbers. This is what I think it's worth. And if it goes back to the team, I think they should say, you make the call at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I'll go ahead and go to this to see if I can save 300,000 or 350,000 because I said 300,000. You know what I mean? And I don't have a problem with that. And if it's there, I think you shake the guy's hand and say, cool, man, he figured it out for us. Yeah. That was my compromise. You know what I mean? And I think you just let it go. But unfortunately, teams don't do that. A lot of times they do crap like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they, I mean, like if they, now maybe they never were planning on signing him long-term. So they were just like, whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. When it's your last year of arbitration, I feel like a team like that would be like, who cares? We're not going to do it after this anyway. What's he going to do? Not try? He's about to go into free agency. He's going to be lights out for us, whether he likes us or not. Yeah. For me, I don't ever want somebody mad.
As far as Bryan Reynolds goes, I think there's going to be more discussions down the road, and I don't think we're going to trade him this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either, unless something drastically happens where either the team is really bad, or I don't know. I'm going to wait and let it play out. I'm not going to sit here and and throw it around. The thing is like when you watch Bryan Reynolds, there's a lot of people who say like he looks disgruntled. And it's like, nah, that's what he looks like when he gets 4 hits.
Yeah.
Like this is just who he is. But those are people who don't follow the Pirates and they don't know. Bryan Reynolds hits 2 home runs in a game. And after the game, he's like, I'm just trying to see the ball and just put a good swing on it and help the team win. It's good. And it's like that. He's excited right now to be at spring training. You saw him like make a couple jokes and his like maybe one side of his mouth goes up a little bit. And then he's like, oh wait, I felt that. I'm going to put it back down. And that's not because he's mad. That's just who he is, which is probably the same reason why he wants to just sign long-term and be comfortable. You know what I mean? That's just...
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's not mad, I guess. I guess the thing is like, do you know? I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, for me, I'm going to backtrack on this a little bit. And Bryan, I'm going to speak straight to you. If your number one is to sign an extension with the Pirates, then asking for a trade was a pretty crappy tactic to make that happen. You're getting bad advice. Do you deserve the money you're asking for? 100%. 100% you deserve $130 million. No question in that. But asking for a trade before you've even reached the veteran status is bad advice. Put your time in first, then you can get that right. That is my opinion. That is where I stand. I will leave a little room to say that if you're not happy at all and you do this, that's one thing. But if you're sitting here saying you love everything about being here and you want to sign long-term, then asking for a trade is not how you get that to happen. Now, Pirates, pay the man. He's actually not asking for an unreasonable contract. You can get closer than you did. I'm done with this situation. I'm going to let it play out. Your turn. You can talk. I'm done. Like that. Because that's as upfront as I'm going to get about it. I'm not mad at Bryan Reynolds. I'm just like, I'm afraid you got bad advice. That's not how you get along. Like, that's not how you show your love for a city, a town, an organization, a coaching staff. He said he loved all those things.
Mm-hmm. And if you love it, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it while you got it.
And if you say, I'm not getting, just put in your time. You'll go to free agency when you go to free agency. That's nobody's fault.
Paid.
That's what everybody has to go through. You'll get paid then. I understand you want paid now. It's unfortunate. It's the hand you've been dealt.
We want you paid now.
We want you paid now. And the Pirates need to go get it. I think they could probably get something done for 120, 125. He wants something reasonable.
The problem is AT&T Sports isn't giving us our money.
I know, but we know there's money there.
I know. If that complicates things, it's going to be really frustrating.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so that's the Bryan Reynolds stuff from our standpoint. I believe, and I haven't gotten an opportunity yet to listen to the fan forum, but I believe they went all in on the Bryan Reynolds talk. So you want a whole bunch of it, go there. I'm sure that they've talked ad nauseum about it this weekend. I will catch that probably tomorrow, but I just didn't get to it before we hit record. So, hey, I just did a thing today. We've been working on some things in the background, and so we did it. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen here. I think I got it pulled up. If you did not know, we have a little merch store on the internet where you can order shirts and that. Obviously, we get a cut of the sales. That's what helps support the podcast, and it gives you a shirt to wear to the game. We have some simple shirts with our logo on them, some player shirts, some fun ones as well. Purchasing them helps us. Wearing them out in public helps us because you can tell your friends and admirers about the show and hopefully get them involved in discussion as well. We have links in the show notes to the online store. We have about 8 or 9, it looks like. 8, 9, 10, but there's some of them are just repeats of the others.
Mm-hmm.
But a new logo shirt with the new text from the logo and all that stuff. So we have all those things. stop by and check it out. It's bridge number 2 Buctober.myspreadshop.com. Once again, check the show notes for the link. And while you're at it, if you don't follow us on Twitter and the socials, do that too. I did post a picture of those earlier today, and you can kind of catch that. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the episode. It's a free way to help us out on there. Commenting on the episode helps us with engagement and things like that, and it helps show the video to other viewers. As for audio, subscribing to the podcast is a great way to know when new episodes are out. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate it as well. So give us a good review. Unless you hate us, then leave it alone. Good reviews only. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode here, Jake.
Okay.
Let's talk about new rules. And I know that we like to kind of cover a lot of things here on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. We like to kind of talk general baseball as well as talk the Pirates. This is a thing for the Pirates. Spring training games are going to start on Saturday against the Blue Jays.
Ooh.
Should be on AT&T. And there's other games too, but this is the only game that you'll see before you hear us again. So we're going to see some new rules in action because it is inning 1, game 1, everything's on, and it's going to be, it is good. It's going to be a little painful to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage you to have patience with the players and the umpires and the broadcasters.
Yep.
Because you're going to see violations of the rules. You're going to see umpires trying to get it right. And what we might talk about the most, if we're being impatient, is the broadcasters who are not going to stop talking about this over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you watch spring training games, you're going to hear about it all over again when the season starts because all the casual listeners are going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They need to communicate this. As much as we're going to hate it, they're going to keep doing it. You're going to hear about it over and over and over again. People who haven't been paying attention to baseball all winter do not know about this yet. But believe me, there are people who do not know about this. It's probably nobody that's listening to this podcast. You guys are all paying attention all year round, but there are people who don't. So have some patience with them. It's going to take time. Hopefully the players and umpires and the coaches are going to handle on it before the start of the regular season. But
I'm sure they'll be just fine.
But the broadcast has a job to do to educate those people. So hopefully they let it go by May. That's interesting. The WBC is not going to be using any of these rules.
Right.
So the players that are gone from March 8th through March 20th or whatever it is, they might still have a little adjusting to do.
Yeah. Some of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people, there's a lot of people, some of these don't affect at all.
Right.
Except maybe the shifts.
Well, yeah. And yeah, I mean, I guess there might be a few things, but, I'm going to read this thing that I kind of wrote this week, and it was just something I was just thinking about, and I was, going through the motions on preparing for all the stuff that we're about to talk about. And I know you're going to get things from all sides here. So I wrote this little thing. I'm just being transparent about the fact that I'm actually reading this. That way, if you hear like some weirdness in my voice, like, yeah, I did write this and I'm going to read it because it's not something I'm going to recite. I don't have that kind of time. So this is what I got here. This is how we're going to set up our rules talk. Maybe this hits, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you say, nice try, but you're a loser. Either way, just give me a couple minutes here. Change to some is good and others bad. Change sometimes puts to bed something you've grown up to love and understand. Sometimes that brings you comfort and joy. Those things. Sometimes it resolves something you've grown to misunderstand or hate. Something that brings you frustration or angst. Baseball is a game that claims it doesn't change very often. But history tells a different story. Whether it's Babe Ruth's home runs that brought fans to the park so they started throwing in fresh baseballs to increase the number of home runs, or lowering the mound because pitchers were too dominant, or slow motion, high definition cameras that showed everyone at home that the umps blew the call. So they implemented an instant replay system to quote unquote get the call right. When I was a kid, baseball was exciting. The potential of anything happening on any pitch had me on the edge of my seat. The game we've been watching in the last 10 years or so has evolved into something that gets more criticism for being boring than it does for being impossible to follow. How? I can still watch a pitch sequence and love it. I've been watching since I was young. I can get frustrated seeing the plate approach, sometimes frustrated how analytics have taken over the decision-making process and not just being a fun way to compute things that have already happened, but an important way of building a strategy of what will likely happen. This is no longer the same game we watched when we were kids, or some of you young adults. This is a much slower game with less risk and sacrifice and more focus on individuals and, dare I say, antics. I actually believe, reluctant as I was in the beginning of these talks, that some of these quote-unquote new rules will restore an old game back to when it was a better game. I actually believe that. Shift limitations and pitch clock specifically. Some of the others bring a different type of excitement, frustration, and debate, and pun intended, relief. We'll get there. But let's break down these rules right now. I wanted to get that point across because I feel like there are things here where it's like, oh, baseball's already good. We don't need to change it. And it's pretty obvious that there's some of these things that are going to restore baseball. And I know that they've been pushing that, but I'm starting to believe it. And I've watched some of the side-by-sides, and I'm like, yeah, actually. Like, do you remember when you went to a game, and if you're a baseball guy, and you see people get up in the middle of an inning, and you kind of get frustrated, like you're supposed to wait till the middle of the inning.
Yep.
But you know what? They've got time to get up and walk to the section before the next pitch. That's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
All right, so let's get into these things. The first one is not part of that. The first one is a new thing that brings up some kind of fresh excitement, but it's also the shortest thing we're probably going to talk about. So give me your thoughts on the balanced schedule, which is a new thing this year.
I'm going to start it with I love it.
Okay.
I love the balanced schedule. Secondly, I think you do away with divisions at this point. They're pointless. I don't think you're not playing as many games against your division. So I don't know. I just think you just have two leagues and the best however many teams go to the playoffs.
Okay. That's essentially what it's going to play out to be. I don't mind the divisions. I think that you reseed once the playoff field is figured out. I'm in favor of that, which would be the same thing as eliminating divisions. However, you do still play several more games against, like we went from playing 19 games to playing 14 games against each team.
Yeah, but
you don't play any more teams more than
when you
6
look
times.
I wish I had written those numbers down, but when you look at it, when you play teams within your division is X amount of games, and then teams outside your division, teams in the other league, all that, it's way higher.
In your division?
No, it's
you mean as a total? Well, yeah, there's more teams.
Right. But that's what I'm saying.
And that's the way it should be.
But why would you take the games against the teams that you play less as if you beat these teams, you can win your division.
Yeah.
I don't think the division winner will have as much weight.
Okay.
Because you're playing everybody. So
yeah, that's an interesting take. I hadn't really even thought that, you know what I mean? I know that they're talking about realignment and changing the divisions, which some of that is like, hey, I'm interested. If it involves like buzz and people talking about it and something new and people can get excited about it, I'm all for it because I love baseball and I'm all for promoting the game.
You're talking about expansion too.
To me, well, and I think that's when the realignment
part of the realignment,
right? Yeah. If there's expansion, there would be realignment, and I think is what the goal is. I don't think there would be without it. So,
Right.
but anyway, for me, it's the exciting thing where it's like, hey, you're gonna see more players, and I think that's what's cool about it is there's gonna be more opportunities. You know, when Mike Trout and Shohei now come and play at PNC Park, which is something that just doesn't get to happen. You know what I mean? I think that's really cool. We'll see them play those guys every year. And every other year, we'll see them play at PNC Park. And I think that's super cool. And I just use them as an example because they're on the same team.
Yeah. Well, for this year. But
right. That's a good point.
And that's why I started it with I love it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Okay, so let's move into some of the bigger things. And if you're watching here, I'm going to throw some media up in here, some graphics that I made. But let's talk about the shift restrictions, shift bans, shift limitations, whatever the heck they're actually calling it. What is it? Okay, so as the pitch is thrown, the defensive team must have a minimum of 4 players within the outer boundary of the infield, with at least 2 infielders completely on either side of second base, or else the penalty will be an automatic ball, which is so weird. The penalty thing is weird. So what's cool is this cannot be circumvented is the one thing that they were kind of pushing this week. It cannot be circumvented by sprinting to the other side while the pitch is on its way to the plate, which we thought they would do. And they're saying this is considered a violation. It also can't be circumvented by moving the best fielder around. And the way they did that was there's no switching sides in a given inning unless there's a substitution. You can't tell Key Bryan, hey, for this hitter, go play second. You can't do that. Positions are actually on the scorecard, and they have to stay there. That says in the given inning, which means I suppose you could go out in the beginning of the inning and say, hey, Key Bryan's going to play second this inning. Why not? You'd have to tell the umpire because it's an official switch, but you don't have to take somebody out to do that. That's the way it reads to me. Obviously, that could be revealed any different. There is still allowed a 5th infielder by bringing an outfielder in. And, the way they word that is if a team wants to take that risk and eliminate an outfielder, they can still do that, which I like because it's like if he hits at the outfield, the game's over anyway. Let's bring in a 5th infielder and he can go on either side. It's fine.
That.
Yeah. So the thing is, and we have to go back, it's a minimum of 4 infielders. And it says that there has to be 2 on either side. So if there's 3 on one side, that's fine, so long as there's still 2 on the other side. So you could even bring in an outfielder to play third, and then maybe. That's actually interesting because he won't be able to. No. The outfielder is going to have to be your third guy.
Yeah, he's going to have to be like a middle guy, and he'll play on either side of the bag.
Or in between the second and first baseman or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, they won't be able to move the shortstop over. Yeah, that's good. They won't. That's interesting. You can't make him the irrelevant infielder here.
Right.
And the other thing I thought was interesting is that the sides of the bag actually mean the sides. There's not a line through the middle of second base, but instead, the base is a diamond in this case. It goes from the sides. So there's 18 inches? Is that? Yeah, right? Because it's a square, 18 inches. So there's 18 inches of the infield that you're not allowed to be in at all.
Right.
When the pitch is thrown. And if you're on YouTube, you can see that graphic where those 2 lines go up. Granted, I made that graphic, so it's not like it's official, but that's what I've seen. And I've seen some that just draw a straight line, and that's not 100% accurate. They made a point to say that it's from the sides. So this is the shift restrictions. These are the rules. I did see somebody, and I have a note here, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, and then you can kind of say whatever. I did see somebody that say, according to the new rules, the way they're written, that Anthony Rizzo can't do his bunt defense where he stands 5 feet from the hitter. That's an exaggeration. That's not true. And they even doubled down and said he's going to have to take off running when the bunt's there. But you won't be able to play a bunt if that was true. It does say outer boundary of the infield. There are some people writing when they're talking about it that they have to have 4 infielders in the dirt. That's not the rule. It's the outer boundary. If they said dirt, then literally you couldn't field a bunt.
Right.
You would bunt, every hitter would bunt. Because the thing is if you're playing at the edge of the dirt and the guy squares to bunt, according to the circumvention rules, you won't be able to sprint out of position.
Right.
So no, that's not the case. It's the outer boundary. The Anthony Rizzo bunt defense is unaffected by this.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just trying to keep infielders from playing in the outfield.
That's it. And they're trying to keep them from overshifting onto one side of the field. Like that's that's the goal here. They're saying they don't want to circumvent this. And this is one of those things where, as I had that little, deal that I read, like plays that we used to see Jack Wilson make, or more baseball, like Ozzie Smith and these, we don't see as many of them plays anymore.
Yeah.
Like we just don't. And this trend of guys like Moustakas and Rizzo playing second base, or not Rizzo, Muncy playing second base, like that's probably going to stop too. You're going to have somebody who can handle middle infield.
Yeah.
To be playing. It's not going to be third baseman. Now, some of those guys, like Jonathan India, is a second baseman now. Neil Walker made his way to be a second baseman, right? But like those, even though they came up as, Neil was all over the place, right? But he was a third baseman and he said, I can play second. You know what I mean? But Jonathan India was a third baseman all the way through the minors, and it was the same sort of thing. And they're like, could you play second? He's like, yeah, if it puts me in the show, I can.
Absolutely.
So, but he's, for all intents and purposes, a second baseman now. You know what I mean? Unless something changes on their team and he gets an opportunity to go back to third. But he's smaller. He's not Mike Moustakas.
Right. Right.
But you're going to see, and what they keep saying is athleticism. And when they first said it, I was like, yeah, I get it, but you're hiding behind the real thing. And whether they are or not is one thing. It will restore that.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought up Ozzie Smith, because I saw his little clip on MLB Network. They asked him how he felt of it, and they were asking him about defense. They really were. They were asking him, like, do you think this is going to be like the athleticism, the whole thing you just said, right? And he said, well, let me start it off with saying first that the shift wasn't as big of a thing back then, because if they would have dared shift it against any of us, we would have just worked and figured out how to hit it the other way, and we would have got it done, because that's our job. He said, I think it's a lack of time and effort put forth by the hitters. I'm like, you said what? I don't 100% agree with that. I think the pitching is so good.
Yeah.
They're forcing you to hit that way. Yeah. Yeah. When it first started the shift and everything, I'm like, just hit the ball the other way. Like, but they're pitching you into the shift. Like, there's not much you can do about it. So
and it's like every guy throws 96.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to, you go with the pitch at that point.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that kind of, I don't know. And I get what he's saying, put in the work and go do it. But I think if Tony Gwynn would have said that, I'd have been like, well, I'm not going to argue with Tony Gwynn. And I'm not saying that Ozzie Smith's not a great, but he's not Tony Gwynn. If it's Tony Gwynn, I'd be like, easy for you to say.
Yeah.
And I think coming from Ozzie Smith, it's like, well, he put in the work because he wasn't a great hitter when he came up.
Yeah.
But no, that's not.
But overall, I like these. I think they did a good job at covering the bases on this.
They will have to do a good job of covering the bases. They'll be in position to do so now.
Right. Yeah, and it's just, for me, it's good. I always hated you get that lefty that hits an absolute missile to the outfield, and it's like, oh, the second baseman's there.
Well, one of the things I thought of, and it goes back to, one of the ways that I've been swayed, I guess, or at least convinced, let's just say it that way, is the idea that, like, I've watched baseball my whole life. And I've watched a lot of it on TV, right? And I know off the bat what a hit looks like. Now, don't come watch a game with me next week, because the first week of spring training, I always think these dudes are crushing. I'm like, oh, wait, never mind. Yeah, there's a little bit of a time where I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to get used to watching again, right? But, like, what a hit looks like. You know what a good piece of hitting is. And then, like, you see, oh, there's a guy right there that you didn't know because you're watching on TV. All you see is the batter a catcher and a pitcher. And so you just assume like, yeah, got him. Oh, never mind. There's a guy there. And it just became overpowered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was the thing to me is like when things happen, specifically like the pitching, when they lowered the mound, when things happen and you realize this is OP, we have to do something about it or this game is going to change. And we didn't until now. You know what I mean? And I understand Pirates are on the forefront of this. They're one of the teams.
What did you just say? Oh, what?
OP, overpowered. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When it becomes over, yeah, that's fine. When it becomes over, thank you for calling that out. It's probably worth it to say that. But when it gets to that point, you have to, in order to maintain the game the way that we love it, sometimes those sort of things need to happen. And I think that's what this is. And we're going to go into another one that is very much, are you ready for are you done with this?
Yeah.
All right, pitch timer, because this is another thing that maintains what we're used to. They looked at timing. If you watch a game even in the early 90s, they said, or in the 90s, they said that guys were throwing the ball within the confines of the pitch timer. I don't like the fact that there's a time, but knowing that like we never had this problem when we were growing up.
Right.
Once you begin to have the problem, and we talked about this years and years and years ago when we used to talk about Nomar Garciaparra stepping out and doing all these things. Or if you take a ball and you walk clear outside of the dirt, I always said, if they walk outside of the dirt, they're supposed to stay in the batter's box. If they walk into the grass outside of the dirt, strike two. I'm done. Where are you going? Or you know what? You just gave up your at bat. Go sit down. You're out. Like, I'm just sick of watching these guys take marathon walks around the dirt, around the batting circle when they just took a ball. All right, here we go. 30-second timer between batters. Bases are empty. There's a 15-second timer between each pitch. With runners on base, they give them 5 extra seconds to mess around with the base runner. 20-second timer between each pitch. Here's the rules. The pitcher must begin his motion to deliver the pitch before the expiration of the timer. Any pitcher who violates the timer charged with an automatic ball, which is so weird to me, but it is what it is. Batters must be in the box and alert to the pitcher by the 8-second mark. Charged with an automatic strike if they don't do so. Also, very weird. The one thing about this I do not like is the penalty. However, you've got to come up with something. You just got to. Like if you don't have something that, like before they said you got to stay in the box and then they realized there's no penalty for it. They all started stepping out of the box again and there's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah.
Except be like, hey, get in a box. There's no penalty. You can't set a rule with no penalty.
Right.
So where are you at with this timer? I know that
I love it.
I know that you've been a fan of this for quite a while. I have been very reluctant because baseball's always been timeless. Baseball's always been, there's no clock in baseball. You got to get 27 outs. There's that whole thing, right? You're never going to run out of time. You're only going to run out of outs. Now maybe you'll run out of time. 2 outs in the 9th inning, 2 strikes, and you're not set and ready to receive a pitch. All of a sudden you're called out and the game's over because you weren't ready.
Yeah. The thing that I'm with you on that. That's the first thing to get over. That you have to get over. And it's not easy because the clock is the clock. It's like not one of it. But this is going to be great for pitchers. Start out because you're going to get into a rhythm.
Yeah.
It's going to be great for the defense. Now that the defense has shift bands, okay, you're on your toes, but you're not falling asleep out there either.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're in the game.
Yep.
You're not kicking around dirt, looking around, waiting for your pitcher to get ready, waiting for this hitter who's got to, get out his extra pair of batting gloves to change them because he swung the bat once or something. You know what I mean? And that's exaggeration, obviously, but
sure.
You're going to be moving.
Yeah.
And it's be like, all right, I'm ready for the next pitch. Let's go. You're hungry now. You're waiting. You're ready. You're chomping at the bit to get the ball. And I just think it's going to the pace of play is what they're trying to increase. And I think this is a great tool.
Yeah, and it's not about the end game. I see a lot of this like, oh, look, it shortened the games by 25 minutes. Listen, I don't want a shorter game necessarily. I love baseball. I don't mind Well, now a lot of people do, so I get that. But like for me, I'm like, it's not about how long the game is. I don't care if a game goes 19 innings, but if I'm bored after 7, now we're talking. This
If I
is a
can
way
get
to.
up and go get a drink in between pitches, like I need
Well,
to
you're
do
not
that
going to
between
wait in
innings.
line in between. Oh, you mean
No,
at
no, no,
home?
no.
At
At
home.
home.
Yeah.
I don't want to get up and go to my kitchen and get a drink and be like, I didn't miss a pitch.
Well, that's the other thing. Even between hitters, there's 30 seconds. If you can make it to your fridge and back in 30 seconds, you know what I mean?
The only thing that I
between
the only
hitters.
thing I want to see is like did they put when it's going to start?
Yeah, there's rules of when those times start. So
Okay.
whenever, I forget what it is. I think it's whenever the pitcher gets the ball, or I don't know when it starts on just like a regular play like that, but I believe it's when the pitcher gets the ball, or maybe it's when the out is made. If there's nobody else on base, I think it's whenever the out is made.
The interesting one for me, and I'm going to stop you there because you're kind of explaining things I'm not talking about.
Okay, yeah.
But like I hit a ball down the line and it's foul, but I took off running.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Those
They're
are those.
Gonna have to,
so you're not saying in between the batters. You're talking about the pitch.
right?
So
yeah,
those are the situations where they've called like there's umpire discretion on when they can give more time.
So I'm going to compare a lot of this to football because there's always been a clock in football, and the umpires, they'll go up there, set the ball, clock goes on my motion. Like, is the home plate umpire just going to go like, raise his hand or do something?
I believe
that
the home plate umpire will motion to start the clock.
I got you.
And
that makes
because
a lot of
what
sense.
they've said is like if you hit a home run, I know this is again between batters. When you hit a home run, that clock starts when you touch home.
Okay. Yeah.
So on a home run, like it doesn't matter if you go slow rolling it. When you hit home, 30 seconds till the next pitch. So the thing is those between batters are the things that are gray for me. But that's a good point to say the foul ball. I believe in those situations, the umpire will be able to say like, hey, now start the timer. Because if it's a foul ball and you were like down the line and they call it foul and you were booking it, and then they say, no, foul ball, you're rounding first.
Yeah.
And if they call it foul at that point, then, you have to have time to get back in there.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's base is empty, then you basically have 7 seconds to get in the box. You know what I'm saying? So that's not going to be the case. I don't know what they'll do there. I don't know if they'll just do 30-second or if they just say on my motion start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There might be a hold that he might be able, like it'll be regular unless he holds.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe there's a motion or something. But the foul ball is the only thing I haven't seen them talk about.
Yeah.
If it's just a foul back, I think it's still 15 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's like, that's a good question. Same thing
Maybe
with the in between batters.
Pitcher gets the ball. Maybe it could be as simple as when the pitcher gets the ball, the pitch clock starts. So foul ball, the umpire.
Yeah, but if it goes,
but the umpire could hold the ball until.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah,
flip the ball back out to the pitcher.
If it's up to him,
starts.
That's a good point. Yep, that's a great point. I guess that's something that we'll have to uncover here.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of little things here. The pitchers are limited to 2 what they're calling disengagements per plate appearance. So that limit resets if a runner advances. So like if there's a stolen base, it resets to 2 more in that plate appearance because those are to keep him, right?
Yeah.
So if a third, now those are, let's just say pickoffs are disengagements, any kind of step off at all, those are all for like holding a runner basically.
Mm-hmm.
And this is their whole way. They're really trying to encourage stolen bases. But if a third pickoff attempt is made, if you get him, then you still get him. You're fine. If he's safe, I think they're considering it a balk.
Yes.
And he moves on. So I guess that's your new balk rule, right? I'm alluding to something that I'm going to talk about here. But mound visits, injury timeouts, and offensive timeouts do not count as a disengagement. Step-offs, pickoffs, those are what count. A disengagement resets the pitch timer as well. That's the reason that they're really limiting them. Because in the minors, it was like, I'm running out of time, I'll step off. Now, That was close. I almost got a ball. Well, they were doing that too much, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, at PNC Park, if you throw to first, we going to boo you. Well, now we get a lot less opportunities to do that. So 2 things. Keep doing it, and you got to double down on the very first one because we only get 2 of them. You know what I'm saying? So really boo them on the very first pickoff throw.
Yeah.
Also, I just think that's fun. I think it's funny. I don't care. It's just a way to, you know what I mean? But also, there's a little less reason to boo because it's not going to be that big of a deal. They're not going to do it to stall time. I guarantee it. They're going to do it to hold runners, and that's it. Especially because once you start using them, I'm going to go. I'm going to get a couple extra steps once you've thrown over twice.
For sure.
Because then guys are going to be like, oh, I'm not. But if you get too much, they're going to just get you. But
yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how they game that. Another game within the game, another point of strategy, another thing to sit on the edge of your seat about. So I'm kind of okay with it. I think it's a little bit weird. I'm kind of okay with it. I don't want them to like say we're back to stealing 130 bases because there's no way you can get a guy out anymore. I still don't think that's the case. I still think that they're still going to be able to hold runners.
Okay.
You don't think so?
I don't.
You think they're just going to be...
I think the run game is going to be absolutely absurd.
I'd bet you that no one will... There will not be a player that steals 50 bags this year.
But I think there will be a few.
50 bags?
Yeah.
I still think analytics is not convinced that the risk is gone.
Well, when we get there.
Okay. Oh, you got something there. I do. What do I have here? I got something here. So we did the pickoff changes. I do have, I think that there's going to be new things that are continue to be uncovered as the year goes. Derek Shelton mentioned that he recently found out how much faster they're going to have to be giving signs. And that these players are going to really have to know what their signs are because they got to get them moving. And their minor league director told them that.
They're talking about the pitcher's going to have the opportunity to call the games. He's going to have the pitch comm to where he can tell the catcher what he's throwing.
Oh, wow. I wasn't even talking about that. I'm thinking about like the hitter. The hitter looking down to third, getting his signs. He's got 7 seconds.
Yeah.
So
maybe they'll have a comm for that too.
Oh my gosh. Hit and runs, you're going to see missed signs. You're going to see guys not swinging, guys stealing when not swinging on a hit and run. You're going to see guys not stealing on a hit and run and he's swinging at a ball that he should never swing at. And then he's going to look down at his guy at first and be like, I thought you were running. Like we're going to see missed signs all over the place.
Yeah.
I would be a victim of this. I'm not a very smart guy. Like bang, bang. Like, you know what I mean? Like, did I get that sign? I mean, my coach in high school, I mean, I was fast, right? He said, you got a green light to run when you want. I'm not giving you a sign. Don't get out.
Yeah.
I didn't very often, right? I had to be on base first. If you guys ever caught that episode with my old coach on here, he's not the one that gave me a green light, but anyway, I had to get on base first. that was my problem. So there's a lot of people talking about the new balk rule, which we just covered. Actually, there is a new balk rule. The third pickoff, if you don't get him, that's considered a balk. Other than that, there's been some talk about Luis Garcia's rocking the baby cha-cha real slow and all that stuff is they're saying now he's going to be called a balk. Yeah, that rule's been in place for 100 years. It's always been a balk. He's been balking this whole time. And it hasn't been a big deal. It's now a big deal because they have to know when to start and stop. Pitching motion, all these things. And the way it's written, how did I have it in this one thing? How's it written?
1 step back, 1 step forward.
Yeah. And it's right down here.
Allowed.
Yeah. Rule 5.07A1 allows the pitcher during the windup to take 1 step backward and 1 step forward with his free foot. It's been a balk for 100 years. And we've just allowed him to do it. And they also brought up like Nestor Cortez and Johnny Cueto with all the weird things they do. Those aren't balks.
No, they're
within that rule. There's just no reason for that. Boring. I hate watching him pitch. And they say like, oh, we're going to take the individuality out of it. Like, no, you're not. He can still rock the baby if he wants, but he gets one step back and one step forward. Like, it's just boring. And it's like, golly, he's going to run out of time doing that. That's an exaggeration, but come on.
Right. Yeah.
No new balk rule, guys, other than the third pickoff attempt, the third disengagement. If you don't get him out.
Considered a balk.
Other than that, Luis Garcia's been balking since he came into the league. So finally we get a stop to that. I sound like an old man, but that was garbage. Let's move on to some other things here. Bigger bases, we'll do that one first because those are the three that have headed this. And then there's some new ones. And if you're watching, you've already got a tip of them. But the size of first base, second base, and third base will be increased from 15 inches square to 18 inches square. Preliminary goal is to limit collisions, especially at first base, where fielders will have an extra 3-inch advantage to stay out of harm's way from the base runner. Creates a 4.5-inch reduction between first and second and third, which is to encourage more stolen base attempts. If you think 4.5 inches is enough to eliminate the risk, go for it. This is also meant to reduce oversliding. I actually believe that one to be 100% true. It should stop this. So go ahead, Jake. I'm going to give you the floor first because I think this is what you were alluding to.
Yep. So the bigger bases creates a 4.5-inch reduction between first and second base. Well, that's all well and good. Yep, 4.5 inches. Okay, which isn't a whole lot.
Nope.
But it also creates another 3 inches that the first baseman has to cover to swipe a tag, which means the base runner's lead can be further back, further away from. So my 10.5-foot traditional lead now becomes a 11.5 foot.
Oh, I don't think you're getting a whole other foot out of that.
You don't?
No.
I do. 100%.
No.
Oh.
I wouldn't take that risk. Analytics will tell you not to take that risk.
Okay, so take another 6 inches.
Yeah, you get. I'll give you tops.
We'll say 11 foot.
Okay.
11-foot lead instead of 10.5. And these are obviously generic.
Yeah, I don't even know that it's that much, but yeah.
I always went 3.5 steps.
That's it. So, and then you're still going to go 3.5.
Which is around 10.5, which is around, but you're not. You're going to go 4.
Everybody that's a different size, that's going to be further.
You're going to get it. You're going to get a half step.
O'Neal Cruz, 3.5 steps is going to give him more of a lead than you because he can reach further.
Yes. But
it's about the dive back.
Let's say, yeah, but you have more time because it's going to take more time for his glove to get to you.
So you're going to take multiple steps and then dive back?
No, you're still going to be able to take one step and
well, then
dive.
You can't go too far.
You're going to hit and slide.
So if it's muddy, you can't take that much.
Sure. If it's muddy, I ain't running anyway. I'm going to slip and fall.
I always dove back in. I didn't slide at all.
Well, you dive.
I would take a lead far enough.
Hit, and you're naturally going to slide a little bit to get to the base.
Okay. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
So let's say we take 6 inches more.
Okay.
It's not that far. That is not that far.
I got you.
You're getting 10 inches, almost a foot closer to second base.
Mm-hmm. Here's what the data says.
The data isn't there.
It is. They've been using these bigger bases in the minor leagues.
Well, that's a guy bagging groceries in a couple of weeks.
No,
but
these are.
I think the stolen bases.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Stolen base attempts did not go up. The stolen base success rate did, but the attempts did not. So they're not going to try to steal any more than they used to. They're just going to be safe more often. Now,
I think
they're going to have to
once
be.
They see,
they're going to have to be. That's. I'll speak to that. They're going to have to be overwhelmingly, like it's going to have to. I don't know what the percentages are right now, but it's going to have to be a huge difference in order for them to like say, well, let's totally alter what we've been doing. I didn't think we'd spend this much time on bigger bases. I didn't think this was I thought this was a safety first.
Well,
thing.
This is and safety first. Listen, don't make the bases bigger. I think this is a garbage rule. I think this is the worst one of all of them. I think it's stupid. I think it was unnecessary.
When you're talking about first,
make first base a little bit bigger and have it in foul territory.
I get that. Except for the fact that if it hits the base,
safety.
It's a fair ball because it's the whole base is in fair territory.
Color. Make it a different. No, the whole. That's what I'm saying.
Put a new base.
Yes, basically, just put the orange bag out there. I don't care.
Yeah, that's multi-layered, right? Now I can run in the actual running lane.
Right. that
I
it
agree
solves
with
more
that.
than just one problem.
100% I'm there with that.
This is just I just think it's unnecessary. I
Yeah.
think they're just trying to do something
Well, but
for the run game.
this is also going to increase. I think getting that extra 3 inches, which I'm going to stick to 3 inches here, because when you're sliding into second, trying to get that hustle double, you've got more room to move around. The way that we've changed the way that you have to apply tags, it's not just about beating the ball anymore. Like, you can't slide off the bag. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, there used to be ways that you could kind of say like, well, I got there. You know what I mean? But now with replay, it's like, nah, you didn't. And it's like, we're getting it right now. You know what I mean? We actually know. And now with those 3 inches, those kind of things just go away. Because now there's not like, well, he blocked the bag. You can't block an 18-inch bag anymore. Like, I got room. I mean, I imagine you could. O'Neal Cruz still could.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. All right, so let's wrap this thing up. We've got 2 more here that were newly announced. Position players used as pitchers, which we had an entire episode on this year, has been further limited. Position players can only pitch in extra innings, is one way, or by a leading team when it's up by 10 or more runs in the 9th inning only, or by a trailing team anytime it is down by 8 or more runs. To me, they've got this thing backwards. They have this thing entirely backwards. If you're losing in the 7th inning by 8 or more runs, you can throw a position player. According to this rule. That's crap. If you're losing by 8 runs, you do not get the luxury of putting in a position player. I'm sorry.
I'm fine with it.
Why? So if I'm getting beat, if I'm the winning team here and I have beaten you to the pulp, the greatest thing about game 1 of a series is that I made you go through your entire bullpen. I've given myself an advantage the rest of the series, and I earned that by scoring 10 runs. And then you're telling me that he can save his bullpen? No way. They've got to throw those guys. I want to see them. This is my advantage for scoring runs. I have earned this.
That's fair.
If you're the losing team, you do not get this advantage. You do not. If you run out of pitchers is when you can put a position player in. That's it. And it should be, you have to be losing by 10 or more runs in just the 9th inning. If I'm winning, I should be able to save my bullpen if I want, but still only in the 9th inning. Still only in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing it. But if I'm the winning team, I should be the only one with the luxury of saving pitchers, not the losing team. If you want to save your pitchers, then win. Be better.
Okay, so this is any time when it's down by 8 or more.
They did not clarify just the 9th inning. If it was just the 9th inning, I think it should just be 10 runs across the board. I don't know why they're giving the losing team a pass.
Right.
If you want to be able to use your pitchers and save your bullpen, then be winning. I'm sorry. It's not like a rude thing, but it's like, if you're going to earn something, what are you doing? Hey, let's give up a couple more runs so we can throw in a position player and save our bullpen.
I think what they're doing is like, if you're down by that much, you've already pretty much used up your bullpen.
I don't care. Then show me that you've used up your bullpen. Once you run out of pitchers, you can put in a position player. Until then, you can't. Like, I'm sorry, you're losing. You don't get breaks.
I'm with you on that.
So that's the only thing I love the fact that they're limiting it more.
Yes.
But they're flip-flopping something a little bit wrong. I think that the winning team
necessarily
the winning team should only be in the 9th inning. Yes, I think both teams should, but the winning team should never get anything more than just the 9th inning.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly the losing team shouldn't be getting anything.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
I agree with that.
So the last one is extra inning Manfred runner or ghost runner, right? We're going to keep calling it the Manfred runner. It's permanent.
Yeah.
Runner at second base, automatically placed to start every extra inning game. That's unfortunate. In the regular season, sure, they're still not going to add it in the postseason. But regular season, they're going to do it. I'm just not in favor of this. I'm okay with it. We've been dealing with it, and that's why they slip it in there. because this to me is not a pace of play thing. They're trying to shorten the length of games. And I don't think that the length of games is the problem.
No.
The problem is pace of play, not length of games.
Yeah.
I don't. If you're going to, because it's give and take. If we give you this and we say this is acceptable, then when do we allow ties?
Right.
Based on time. I understand ties based on, well, the weather came in and we're going to go ahead and complete this game so we don't have to make it up later. I'm okay with that. You can throw ties in at that point. That's out of your control. But if the weather's fine, we're going to keep playing till we find a winner. You don't tie.
Yep.
And I'm just afraid they're going to get to the point where they're like, 12 innings is max. If you didn't figure it out in 12 innings, it's a tie. No. Come on, man. Figure out the winner.
Yep.
This is a way for them to figure out the winner sooner. You know, I think that this is effectively happened. So it does kind of favor the no tie thing. So maybe if you're telling me this is the way that they can say, we're not going to put ties in the game, instead we're going to do this, then I guess that's how you'll get me.
Yeah.
Because then I'd be in favor for it, because I'm not in favor of ties.
Yeah. It's this rule. It doesn't bother me. I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
I actually thought that this would be the one that would tick you off the most. I thought this was the one. You've hated this Manfred runner, like verbally hated it.
Well, yeah, and I'm just getting used to it. I mean, time passes, and
there you go. Change, right?
Yep. As long as they don't do it in a postseason, I don't really care.
We're over our hour, so I am not going to do. Of course, I didn't know we were going to spend that much time on bigger bases. I'm surprised that you. I thought this was like who cares?
No,
but you actually think it's going to make a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bigger impact is the pickoff rules in the running game. I think that is the bigger impact than the bases.
I think combined is what's.
Yeah, I did not put a poll out about our draft results, but I will say two quick ones here just to cover the bases and say that we're finished with this. Douglas12821, who commented on all these. When listening to the infield draft portion, it became easy to see why it's been a long stretch of bad baseball. And he chose, with the guys left, he said, Ramirez, Wilson, Sanchez, and Young. I did pick Wilson, but he wasn't one of my top four, so he threw him in there. So that's his pick. Unless there's a different Wilson that I'm not thinking of. Pirate Takes says, I think I give an edge to Josh this week. Don't beat yourselves up about too much, because we were he said, not a ton of talent in the infield. Like you guys said, you hit nearly all of it. At least you didn't have to pick Pokey Reese or Pat Mears. And then he said that Derek Lee was his favorite outside the box pick. So he's got kind of a little point for both of us there. But I'm going to call it a draw for the whole thing, even though it's impossible. That's what I'm going to do, because I thought it was just fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Everybody wins. This is not a baseball game. So
give me my participation trophy, bud.
Stupid. All right, that's all I have for today. I even put a note in my notes to say, dude, write out a closing remark so that you don't do this dance at the end of every episode. I did not do that, so let's go Bucks.
Yep, let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks!